Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on our special series on NewsX, Second Wave Superheroes. Yes, this is a brand new episode where we'll be recognizing individuals and organizations who've stepped up to help people at this very difficult time as India continues to reel under the devastating pandemic. Our first guest today is Hartirat Singh, who is a community development director with a team of 150 volunteers of Hemkunt Foundation, addressing more than 1,100 actually calls on a daily basis, working relentlessly to provide oxygen cylinders, oxygen concentrators to those in need. Listen in to his story.
While the nation was running short of oxygen and people were battling for breath, Hemkunt Foundation came at the forefront for India's COVID relief. A team of volunteers worked day and night to provide oxygen cylinders to those in need. Led by Hartirat Singh, the Community Development Director at Hemkunt Foundation, 150 volunteers addressed more than 1,500 calls from the entire country. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Hartirat Singh and the Hemkunt Foundation.
Hello and welcome to NewsX Second Wave Superheroes. And Delhi was battling for breath. Hemkunt Foundation acted as a lifesaver to many. Today on the show, we have Hartirat Singh, Community Development Director of Hemkunt Foundation. Welcome to the show, Hartirat.
Thank you for having me.
My first question to you would be, how did this organization started? Like, what was the thought of starting the organization, and how did you started helping people around?
11 years ago, I think I was stuck in a disaster myself, and the response time was a lot. So we basically sort of bridging the gap, and how do we do it? We had to step our game up, obviously, and that is when Hemkunt Foundation took birth. Because जब खुद को चोट लगती है, then you realize, here's the gap, and you need to bridge it. So Hemkunt Foundation took birth in Uttarakhand itself during the floods, while we were being affected.
And how did it step up during the times of COVID, while there was the second wave of COVID? How did it accelerate and came at the forefront of helping people?
We have had experience of various disasters, be it Kerala, be it Uttarakhand floods, be it the Philippines volcanoes. So we guys are trained, but we've seen nothing like this before. Because you can't predict the wave, you can't really predict ki ab kya hoega aage. That is why this was different. But yes, we did have the skill sets. That is why we stepped up again. We knew that there will be oxygen shortage because we started before time. जब crisis आया उससे पहले शुरू हो गए थे. Even if you see before, the Maharashtra CM actually came, on a press conference saying that we need oxygen cylinders in Maharashtra. We had actually started distributing oxygen in Maharashtra 2 weeks prior to that. So it's all about timing, and it's all about executing everything, because you don't have a lot of time while doing all of this. So we started off with the regular oxygen cylinder drive. Then we started off with the oxygen drive-through, where people come in their cars and get oxygen. And the third was obviously the Oxygen Micro Center, which started in Gurgaon, then went to Mumbai. And now we're everywhere: Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Bihar, Uttarakhand, UP. You name the state, and all these tier 3 cities, and Hemkunt Foundation is there with their micro oxygen center.
Okay, so while the nation was battling for breath, and you were there at the forefront helping out people, you and your organization was there. What were the major challenges that were faced by you and your organization and you personally while helping out people? Because obviously the resources are limited, and everything is limited, and there was havoc across the nation. So what were the major challenges faced by you?
See, the biggest challenge is procurement itself, because you can't waste time. So you need to be fast, but you also need to be mindful to get the right price, at the right price to get the oxygen cylinders and the concentrators. So it has to be a mixture of both. You can't delay stuff, but you also need to be mindful that at the end, it is the donations you're working with. So you need to be mindful of that as well. And you can't overspend or be a spendthrift. So we started importing. We were getting good rates, and The time was also good. This is when we had already overused all the resources. For example, we had started getting in cylinders from Punjab, from South India to Delhi, because Delhi was facing the shortage back then. You tab ki baat hai jab we were getting Twitter SOS calls like 30 minutes of oxygen left in this hospital. So tab we already started getting in concentrated cylinders from Punjab and South India. But then we had to move to other countries to support all the other states, because then we started moving ahead from Delhi. Himachal Pradesh, UP, and all of these cities. So then we had to get in everything from abroad. So that was the biggest problem. And then the second is, of course, the mental health of all the volunteers, including myself. When you see so many deaths happening in front of you, you see so many people crying, it isn't easy to, just go home and sleep. That isn't something which is possible. It's like a privilege for us कि हम किस दिन जा रहे हैं और हमें आधे घंटे में नींद आ गई. That isn't possible. So mental health is also a very big issue, and that brings down our efficiency. So we always need to be mindful of being positive. And एक पंजाबी में word है चढ़ती कला, which is ever rising positive spirits. तो वो हम बचपन से सीख रहे हैं, but now is the time to actually implement the spirit of चढ़ती कला. So it's obviously difficult, but yeah, someone has to do it, and I'm glad we've gotten the chance to serve people.
Okay, while you were talking that your mental health and your volunteers' mental health was severely affected during these times. So what was one thing that kept you all together and kept you all running while doing this, while helping out people, keeping your life at the risk? Because obviously, when you are obviously providing oxygen cylinders, you yourself are also putting yourself at the risk. So what was one thing that kept you and all your volunteers together to help people out there?
You just look at our amazing history. Ethni ki seva aaj start hui. It's been happening since the past 400 years, and that is where we take our inspiration from. Guru Nanak ने एक FD लगा दी थी 400 साल पहले, जो हमें आज तक रिटर्न दे रही है. And that is the only thing I tell everyone, that is your inspiration, single source of inspiration. जब भी people needed us, we've always stepped up in the past as well. Be it Saragadi, be it the countless wars we have fought, or be it any help, Syria for example, border pe we're serving people. Be it any country, Philippines, we were there as well during the volcano eruption. Ye nahi khali India, wherever people need us, regardless of faith, regardless of color, gender, religion, caste, we as a community have always helped people because of the concept of seva. And that is where we always take our inspiration from.
Okay, so at any point of time while helping out people, like obviously you also have a family and volunteers also have a family, and at any point of time was there certain amount of emotional attachment that was coming in between the way, and any one of your volunteers or you thought of going back and or stepping down a little bit from helping people?
See, 2 days ago only I had 4 of my volunteers going back home. वो चले तो गए, but then the next day I got a call saying that we can't sit at home, हमसे नहीं देखे जा रहा. So even if someone does decide to go back, that would be a rare case. कोई चले भी जाता है, वो वापस आ जाते हैं. Why? Because they know the pain of the people, they know the suffering of the people, and once you've seen it from your own eyes, you can't sit at home being idle. तो जो भी कोई वापस जाता है वो खुद एक दिन वापस आ जाते हैं. Because
thank you, Hardeep, for talking to us. Thank you so much for your time, and we at NewsX really appreciate your effort, and we salute you for being the superheroes in the second wave and saving thousands of lives out there. Thank you so much.
Our next guest on the show today is Ayushi Misra. Ayushi took the task of providing free home-cooked meals for home-isolated COVID patients, as they were finding it very difficult to source food from anywhere. Listen in.
The pandemic has created a situation of panic and havoc in the country. In the course of second wave, even the basic everyday necessities such as food was difficult to get. Ayushi Misra took the task of providing free home-cooked meals for COVID patients under home isolation as they find it difficult to source food. Ayushi cooked meals for innumerable COVID patients in Noida, besides working on a full-time job. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Ayushi Misra.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Fiza Jain. Today on the second wave superheroes, we have with us Ayushi Misra. She's the founder and co-owner of Absolutely Ayushi, and she has been helping COVID patients by providing them free meals in Noida. Welcome, Ayushi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Indeed, it's our pleasure. So my first question to you regarding the same is, what led to the idea of helping people by providing them free meals?
Honestly, it's pretty simple. I think when something hits home on a personal level, you start realizing about, what could be happening elsewhere. My mom got COVID and she was a pretty severe case, and, we were sort of trying to help out with everyday activities, and simultaneously close friends started getting it. And I noticed that, food, which is such a basic and important requirement during this time, is what they needed. And while helping them out, I started to think of the number of people that are probably struggling with this very everyday basic activity. And I extended my home personal setup for that.
Okay, so how has your journey been helping people till now?
I'm sorry, the line sort of cut in the middle.
So I'm just asking, how has your journey been helping people, providing free meals till now?
Well, it's honestly been, it's very gratifying. I have to say that you feel a little useful at a time when, there's so much happening around you. But it's also been very emotional because, with God's grace, all the people that I was cooking for have recovered. And I've been with them through their recovery process, or with their family members. I mean, I was cooking for people where there were old couples in Noida, their kids are in America, in Canada, there's no way to access food, and then just working with them every day, because it's not just food, it's like, so-and-so's not doing well today, they need extra nutrition here, they're going to the hospital, they're getting discharged from the hospital. So to finally hear that, okay, they're all right, and we don't need the service anymore. It was a very emotional but very gratifying experience.
So when you how do you probably just make sure that the meals reach them?
So it was pretty simple. I was very clear cut about the fact that I'm going to do a limited number of meals. Number one, because I didn't have the capacity to. Number two, I wanted to ensure quality and hygiene control, obviously with the given situation. And because I wanted to focus on very high nutrition, I kept the meals limited. What I did was I would, a lot of them were okay with using their phones, and they were okay talking and stuff. So those guys would sort of book a porter service because there are so many available, or those who aren't tech friendly, I would book it for them. And every day at a fixed time, the meals would go out and reach their respective places.
How have you been through all these situations? As you said that your mother had COVID. And emotionally, how attached do you feel to them? How do you think, how is it all going?
Okay, so the thing is that firstly, while there's the common denominator in all of this is to hope that everything becomes okay, every situation is so different, and everybody's circumstances were so different. So I don't think I could compare one to the other. But in that moment when you're actually working with one family and their meal service, you're so invested in the whole recovery process. So when they're happy, you're happy. When they're a little stressed, you're a little stressed. And it's a very weird empathy that comes out, which you probably didn't even know you had till you're actually dealing with them. You just become one. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this time, that complete strangers have just come together. I don't know anything about their lives, they don't know anything about my life, but this experience, this unfortunate experience, we're together in that.
Okay, so these days, like how do you transport it, and like how is it going to the other people? Like, is there like a delivery service that you're using, or like
So
do you meet at a common point?
there are multiple delivery services, that are present. You've got WeFast, you've got Uber Delivery, you've got Swiggy, you've got Porter.com. You've got a bunch of them, and they're all. I think a lot of them are anyway working on a food delivery model, because even if it's not someone who's providing the service, I think it's just happening in a lot of households. So these guys are, all of them in fact, have been so nice and polite about it. And when you tell them that this is going to a home that's COVID affected, they're like, no problem, ma'am, and they take it in good condition and they have it delivered.
That's awesome. Like, whatever work that you're doing is indeed commendable. Like, people like all of us, like I can understand like people suffering, their moms probably ill, and then taking care of the whole household. The food is majorly an issue, and you are doing a great job. Thank you so much for being on this show.
And our last guest for the day, today on the show, is Jitinder Singh Shanti, founder of Shahid Bhagat Singh Seva Dal. He helped cremate 2,000 plus people at a time when kin of victims of people who passed away shied away due to the fear of contracting virus. Take a look at this story.
As a sea of COVID bodies piled up at Delhi's crematorium grounds, Jitinder Singh Shanti took it upon himself to perform the last rites of people. At one point, Jitinder and his foundation Shahid Bhagat Singh Seva Dal helped cremate more than 2,000 bodies in a month. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Jitinder Singh Shanti and his organization. As a sea of COVID bodies piled up at Delhi's crematorium grounds, Jitinder Singh Shanti took it upon himself to perform the last rites of people. At one point, Jitinder and his foundation Shahid Bhagat Singh Seva Dal helped cremate more than 2,000 bodies in a month. NewsX proudly recognizes second wave superhero Jitinder Singh Shanti and his organization.
Hello and welcome to NewsX Second Wave Superheroes. As the second wave of COVID-19 created havoc, conducting funerals who succumbed to deadly infections became a difficult task. One man with his team of volunteers took upon himself to conduct last rites of people with dignity. We have with us Jitinder Singh Shanti, a Padma Shri Award recipient and founder of Shahid Bhagat Singh Seva Dal. Namaste, sir. सर मेरा पहला सवाल आपसे ये है कि आपका ये आइडिया कैसे आया? How did this idea emerge to you? आपने कैसे सोचा कि मेरे को ये चीज शुरू करनी है?
कई बार एक छोटा सा हादसा इंसान के जीवन को बदल देता है। मेरे साथ भी ऐसा हुआ कि मैं किसी के दाह संस्कार में 1995 में जब शमशान घाट में गया हुआ था किसी डेथ पे, तो मैं क्या देखता हूँ कि एक व्यक्ति लोगों की जली हुई टुकड़ियों के जो पीसेस बच जाते हैं लकड़ियों के साइड पे पड़े रहते हैं या क्रिमेट करते हैं, उसको उठा के वो टोकरी में रख रहा है। तो मैंने अपने दोस्तों को कहा, मैंने कहा देखो लकड़ी चोरी कर रहे हैं, तो हमें रोकना चाहिए। तो हमने रोका और डांटा उसको भी, आप चोरी को कर रहे हो ऐसे? तो कहने लगा जी मैं चोरी नहीं कर रहा, मैं गांव से आया हूँ बेटे का इलाज कराने, दोनों मियाँ बीवी, और बेटे की डेथ हो गई है और सुबह 11 बजे से मैं यहाँ बैठा हूँ, मेरे पास इतने पैसे नहीं है कि मैं इसका संस्कार कर सकूं। कई लोगों से मांगे, कोई 5 रुपए 10 रुपए दे देता है, कोई चारा ना देख के। सर्दी का टाइम है, शाम पड़ गई है, तो मुझे लगा कि लकड़ियां फालतू पड़ियां सेट हो गई, इतने इतने पीसेस बचे हुए, तो क्यों ना मैं इकट्ठे करके उसके साथ संस्कार कर दूं। तो हमारे को उस दिन आत्मग्लानि हुई, यार हम राष्ट्रीय राजधानी में रह रहे हैं और करोड़ों रुपए के मकान में लोग रहते हैं, करोड़ों रुपए की कार में चलते हैं, शादी में, ब्याह में, जन्मदिन में, मैरिज एनिवर्सरी में करोड़ों रुपए लगाते हैं। उस दिल्ली के अंदर एक व्यक्ति को अपने बच्चे की लाश जलाने के लिए जली हुई लकड़ियां इकट्ठी करनी पड़ रही है। हमने उसका संस्कार कराया
और फिर तब से वहाँ शुरू हो गया, तब से आपने सोचा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन शुरू, वही शुरुआत थी।
अगले दिन हमने मीटिंग करी एक दोस्तों ने कि यार कुछ किया जाए। तो दोस्तों ने कहा यार ये तो हम बात करते हैं, सरकार से बात करते हैं। मैंने कहा भाई हम क्यों ना करिए, शुरुआत हम करते हैं। एक शमशान घाट मैंने अडॉप्ट किया, 2 किए, 3 किए, 17 कर लिए। हमने बोर्ड लगा दिए, कोई भी गरीब, असहाय या लावारिस डेड बॉडी उसका संस्कार हम कराएंगे। लोगों ने मजाक करे बड़े कि देखो जी ये राजनीति कर रहे हैं, किसी ने कहा जी पैसे इकट्ठे करेंगे, किसी ने कहा जी ये तो कफन बेचते हैं। बहुत बातें सुननी पड़ी। अपने अपने रिश्तेदार, अपने सके भी कहीं कहने लगे मुझे, लेकिन हमने शर्म नहीं करी और उस काम को शुरू कर दिया। और 24-25 हजार ऐसी लावारिस बॉडियों के संस्कार हम आज तक करवा चुके हैं जी। तो जब उसी समय जब शुरू हुआ था तो हमने लगा यार किसी की डेथ हो जाती है दिल्ली में, हॉस्पिटल में डेथ हो गई है, घर लाना है डेड बॉडी को या घर से शमशान जाना है, तो शव वाहन नहीं मिलता, हजारों रुपए मांगते लोग। तो 96 में हमने पहला शव वाहन बनाया था। मुझे याद है जो एम्बुलेंस बनाई थी मैंने पहले, उसका इनॉग्रेशन तो मैंने माननीय साहब सिंह वर्मा जी से कराया था। और जब मैंने शव वाहन बनाया तो उसका इनॉग्रेशन मैंने कपिल देव जी से कराया था, क्रिकेट सम्राट। तो ऐसी शुरुआत करी जी। दिल्ली में लोग हैरान हो गए कि यार मुफ्त में गाड़ी भी मिल सकती है डेड बॉडी के लिए। आप बिलीव करेंगे कि 44,000 डेड बॉडी हमने कैरी कर दिया, 44,000। और जैसे ही इस चीज का लोगों को पता शुरू हुआ, हमें देखा था कि कई और लोगों ने भी बनाई। हमें खुशी हुई कि चलो खुशबू तो फैली। हमने एम्बुलेंस भी बनाई। फिर हमें एक और चीज नजर आई कि यार घर में डेथ हो जाती है, 1 दिन 2 दिन बॉडी।
सर मैं आई एम सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट आपको, है ना। मेरे को आपसे ये पूछना था, तो टीम कैसे जुड़ी सर आपकी? आप सारे दोस्तों ने मिलकर से शुरू किया, फिर वॉलंटियर्स कैसे जुड़े इसमें?
हर काम के साथ अलग अलग लोग जुड़े। जैसे मैंने डेड बॉडी का शुरू किया काम, तो उसमें कुछ लोग ऐसे भी आए जिन्होंने कहा शंटी जी एक डेड बॉडी की 1 महीने में लकड़ी के पैसे मैं भी दे दूंगा। ऐसे भी लोग आए। जैसे मैंने गाड़ी बनाई डेड बॉडी की, तो एक सज्जन आए, कहते शंटी जी महीने में एक बार मैं 20 लीटर पेट्रोल दे दिया करूंगा। तो साथ मिलना शुरू हुआ, लोगों ने हमारी उंगली पकड़नी शुरू कर दी। फिर हमने मोर्ची बॉक्स बनाए कि डेड बॉडी 2 दिन 3 दिन पड़ी रहे, खराब ना हो, तो कैसे करें। तो मोर्ची बॉक्स एक करते 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 10 बना दिया हमने। उसमें भी लोगों ने मदद करी। यहाँ तक कि मुझे इस बात का फख्र है कि वो मोर्ची बॉक्स हमारे बनाए हुए माननीय पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी की बॉडी उस पर रखी गई, सुषमा स्वराज जी की, माननीय अरुण जेटली जी की। ये हमारे लिए बड़े गर्व की बात है कि शहीद भगत सिंह सेवा दल की छोटा सा एक संस्था को इतना बड़ा मान सम्मान दिया गया सरकारों की तरफ से। और उसके बाद जब हमें ब्लड डोनेशन का काम शुरू किया 25 साल पहले, लाइन लग गई जी। उन्हें 200 कैंप कर दिए।
कोविड के टाइम पे भी वॉलंटियर्स, मैं ये पूछना चाहूंगा, कोविड के टाइम पे भी वॉलंटियर्स आपके पास आपसे जुड़े हुए थे, या वो भी कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा घबरा गए थे कोविड की इतनी बुरी महामारी देखकर?
मैं उसी बात पे आ रहा था कि जैसे हमने ब्लड कैंप शुरू किए तो लोग वो जुड़ गए। 175 से ज्यादा कैंप कर दिए, 103 बार मैंने ब्लड डोनेट करा, वर्ल्ड बुक ऑफ रिकॉर्ड में नाम आ गया, सब हो गया। लेकिन जैसे कोविड आया और 2020 में हमारे 3 डिस्ट्रिक्ट शाहदरा, ईस्ट और नॉर्थ ईस्ट, इन्होंने कहा जी शंटी जी आपके पास तो बहुत एम्बुलेंसेस है। मेरे पास तो 12 थी एम्बुलेंसेस। मैंने कहा कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। मुझे कईयों ने कहा शंटी जी मौत से खेलोगे। मैंने कहा नो प्रॉब्लम, 25 साल से सेवा कर रहे हैं। अगर आज देश के ऊपर बुरा समय आया, हम सामने खड़े हैं। आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे कि हम मात्र 15-16 लोग थे जो बिल्कुल तैयार खड़े थे। बाकी मेंबर्स बहुत थे, 200-300, लेकिन कोई घर से निकलने को राजी नहीं हो रहा था। किसी की कॉन्शियस अलाउ नहीं कर रही थी, किसी की सेहत अलाउ नहीं कर रही थी, किसी के परिवार वाले अलाउ नहीं कर रहे थे। लेकिन हम 15 बंदों ने 1362 डेड बॉडी का कन्वेंशन कराया। पेशेंट 2000 से ज्यादा, घरों से उठा उठा के लाशें लेके आए हम। और उस समय मैं, मेरा बेटा जो जीत, मनीष, मेरी मिसेज, मेरे 3 ड्राइवर, हम सब पॉजिटिव हो गए और एक ड्राइवर मर गया मेरा उसमें। फिर तो सारे घबरा गए, मेरे दोस्त यार और ज्यादा घबरा गए। पर मैंने एक जवाब दिया हमको, मैंने कहा यार अब तो हमारा हौसला और बढ़ जाना चाहिए। कहते क्यों? मैंने कहा यार जब मिलिट्री में किसी एक जवान की शहादत हो जाती है तो मिलिट्री वाले वापस थोड़ा भाग जाते हैं और आगे बढ़ते हैं, तो और आगे बढ़ते हैं। और हम आगे बढ़े। अब दूसरा जैसे दौर आया, फिर प्रशासन ने कहा, इन मीटिंग हमारे पास एम्बुलेंसेस बढ़ के 18 हो गई, उस दौरान हमने बढ़ा लिया हमने। अब मेरे साथ 22 बंदों ने काम शुरू किया, लेकिन किस्मत खराब की 8 फिर उसमें से पॉजिटिव हो गए। मेरा मैनेजर, मेरे 3 ड्राइवर, मेरे दोनों बेटे फिर दोबारा पॉजिटिव हो गए। मैं नहीं हुआ, मेरी मिसेज हो गई, मेड हो गई। लेकिन हमने काम बढ़ा दिया जी, मैंने हायर कर लिया और बंदे 22 बंदों ने हमने, प्लस शमशान के जो काम करने वाले हैं 12, 13, 14 लोग, 30 लगा लीजिए आप। हमने 2400 डेड बॉडी क्रिमेट करवाई है इस 1.5 महीने के अंदर, 2400। और जो घरों से उठा के लाए हैं हम, जो घरों में मर गए, मुझे कनाडा से फोन आ रहा है, लंदन से आ रहा है, अमेरिका से आ रहा है कि हमारे भाई सब पड़े हैं, कोई उठाने वाला नहीं है, भाई साहब जाइए प्लीज। उनकी संख्या 700 से ज्यादा है, मैंने आज हिसाब लगाया था। जो घरों में पड़े थे सबने हाथ खड़े कर दिए, कहते नहीं शंटी को बुलाओ, शहीद भगत सिंह वालों को फोन करो, हमारे पास साधन नहीं है। हम जाके हमने सैनिटाइज करना बॉडी को, उनसे अंडरटेकिंग लेनी, और कोई बंदा हमारे साथ नहीं आता था जी। हम अपने आप बॉडी को ला के, मोहल्ले वाले ऊपर खड़े हैं, वीडियो बना रहे हैं। कई जगह हमारा स्वागत भी किया उन्होंने, जैसे हम बॉडी लेके निकले, 2-2 दिन की बॉडी पड़ी थी, तो लोगों ने ऊपर से फूल भी बरसा दिए, लेकिन डेड बॉडी को नहीं हाथ लगाया किसी ने। तो एक बहुत बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस मिला जी पिछले कोविड में भी इसमें।
थैंक यू फॉर टॉकिंग टू अस जितेंद्र जी। आपने इतनी मदद करी लोगों की और लास्ट उनको एक डिग्निफाइड लास्ट राइट्स दी। मैं I want to tell our viewers, while he helped people during the pandemic, and he has always had the habit of helping people and stepping forward for a noble cause. He also, Jitendra ji, apart from being a Padma Shri Award recipient, he is also a holder of Guinness Book of World Records for donating blood for 101 times. We at NewsX salute you for your service and thank you so much for talking to us, Jitendra ji.
Thank you. Bharat Mata ki jai.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.